Losing My Religion was a mistake. It should never have been a successful single. The way it was composed is very strange.
After being misunderstood, banned by the Catholic Church, and hated by the singer himself,
Yes, I have seen it. It's horrible.
it became one of the most successful songs in history, making the lives of these 4 young Americans never the same again. Today, I'm going to tell you the enigmatic story of Losing My Religion by the band Rapid Eye Movement. I'm Guilherme, and you're watching DECIFRAHITS. With a title that, if you translate it literally, means Losing My Religion. Losing My Religion made many people believe it was some kind of anti-religion anthem, which even led to bans by the Catholic Church.
The song is a bit mysterious and kind of eerie, but you don't really know why.
The lead singer, who had to be completely naked to record the song, still regrets changing a certain part of the lyrics in the music video. Winner of a Grammy and several awards via email, he was never understood by most people. But I found out that he is a true work of art, with so many hidden layers that by the end of this video, your mind will end up blown. But despite the extremely high quality of this song, the band R.E.M. didn't expect all this impact.
Stop and think. You have a 5-minute song with a barely distinguishable chorus, and the main instrument is a mandolin. Why would anyone play it on the radio?
And when the band said they wanted to release Losing My Religion as the first single from the album, they faced strong resistance from the record label.
They aimed to end their own career, deciding to make an album that would do just that and thought it would be cool.
But why did Losing My Religion cause so much controversy? What is the meaning of this song, and what was so strange about its composition? To understand that, we need to go back to 1987. That year, the band was exhausted. They had spent most of the year on a long and stressful tour to promote the band's 6th album, Green, which was scheduled to be released the following year, and therefore, they needed to rest. But if you work with music or any other art form, you should know that it's precisely in those moments of rest that the most creative ideas come up. Peter Buck, the guitarist of the band, was exactly that kind of person. He had just turned 31, and after almost 10 years playing the same instrument, Peter felt it was time to try something new. He didn't want to be the guitar guy anymore. Or, in the words of his friend Michael Stipe,
I think he was afraid of becoming one of those jerk guitarists. I think that was the term he always used.
Peter's hobby as a musician was to challenge himself to play instruments he had never played before. And one of those instruments was a mandolin, which he had bought during the band's last tour. One day, Peter Buck was on the couch in his living room watching the Atlanta Braves game, the baseball team from his city. And when it was halftime, he decided to pick up the mandolin. To learn how to play, Peter left a cassette tape recorder on while he played the instrument, so he could listen to it later. He would listen to the recording and find flaws in his technique, and while practicing, he ended up playing something interesting.
I was messing around with the scales and it just came out.
Because that's the melody you hear throughout the whole song. Losing My Religion is the sound of someone learning to play an instrument. The birth of the song was definitely something mystical, but you can't make a complete song with just one instrument. The album Green was about to be recorded, and this would be a strong candidate, but Peter decided to hide his work from the band for a while. He felt that this new song would be better used on the group's 7th album, Out of Time, which was scheduled to be released in 1991. In the summer of 1990, the recordings for Out of Time began, and finally it was time for Peter to present his new idea to the rest of the band. The first to hear the melody was the drummer, Bill Berry, who, although he loved the sound, thought the melody was so soft and delicate that putting drums over it could ruin the piece. As a solution, Bill Berry thought about playing another lighter percussion instrument, like the conga, giving the song a Latin touch. But in the end, they realized that they did need to add a bit more energy. And that's when Bill Berry went all in on the drums. Next, it was time for the bassist Mike Mills to step in, but he was having some problems.
Bill came up with the beat quickly, but I couldn't think of anything. I wanted it simple but not boring.
The mandolin had a sound that was too high-pitched for Mike Mills's bass to make any difference in the melody, and he needed to come up with a solution.
It's a strange song to try to write. The bass is weird. I wanted to get to the point where I enjoyed playing it, and to have that pleasure, I had to create my own bass.
The inspiration came when he remembered John McVie, the bassist of Fleetwood Mac, a rock band from the 60s. I really admired Fleetwood Mac, and John McVie's bass lines were simple but melodic. They elevated the songs instead of limiting them. Thinking about them helped me create the ideal bass line for this song. Even so, Peter Buck still felt that the song had a hollow feeling, since there was nothing filling the empty space between the high sound of the mandolin and the low sounds of the bass. That's when they remembered a guy who had done some work for the band as an auxiliary guitarist during the last tour, the guitarist Peter Rossipol. They asked Rossipol to fill that gap with his acoustic guitar, and it worked out very well. The instrumental part of the demo was already complete, but it was still missing the icing on the cake, the emotion-filled voice of the vocalist Michael Stipe.
You couldn't let yourself get too excited about something because it wasn't a real song until Michael sang it, and you never know if he'll feel inspired or not when he gets a song.
After practicing the melody so much, the band was already humming some ideas for what the lyrics could be. And they had even come up with a working title for the song, Sugarcane, Cana de Azúcar in English. Yeah, nothing to do with what it was about to become. But the band's lead singer didn't want to be influenced by his bandmates' ideas. And just like the bassist Michael Stipe, he wanted to create his own art, lyrics with his true feelings that would really inspire him to sing. So he asked the band to record only the instrumentals on a demo tape, and took the tape to his room so he could think about the lyrics. Michael was hyperactive, and his creative process involved standing up, walking in wide circles around his room, while the melody played in the background and ideas flowed through his mind. This allowed him to enter an almost meditative or trance-like state as the ideas came to him. He would type the lyrics on a typewriter and record his voice on a cassette tape. Thanks to this state of mind, the process of writing the lyrics was so fast that Michael Stipe can barely remember the details.
I don't remember writing Losing My Religion, which is a good sign. It means it just flowed out of me.
The song was written in 5 minutes. For me, Losing My Religion feels like some kind of archetype that was floating in space and we managed to catch it, said Peter Buck, who also said he was incredibly moved when he heard Michael Stipe's vocals together with the music. But as for Michael himself, however, we can't say the same thing. He literally hated his own voice.
Life is bigger. It's bigger than you, and you are not me. The lengths that I will go to, the distance in your eyes.
Michael always gets embarrassed when he hears those demos, and I always tell him, Michael, look, that's in the past. By the way, that's not going to change people's minds about us.
But, as they said, that was just a demo. Now that everyone knew what they had to do, they needed to schedule a day in the studio to record the final version of the song. They went home and each of them kept a copy of the demo for about 2 weeks, so they could reflect on what they had done and think about possible improvements before the official recording. Michael Stipe, a perfectionist like any brilliant artist, wasn't going to accept anything less than perfection. But for that, he would need to find the perfect balance in the emotion of his voice, so that it sounded as genuine as possible without being artificial.
For an artist with an emotional voice like mine, it's easy to end up overdoing it and end up allowing a lyric or a song to be more than it really is. And that would be betraying my audience and myself.
Finally, the day of the final recording arrived, and the production was anything but easy. While Peter Buck recorded the mandolin part in just one take, Michael Stipe had a tough time. To be able to record it was always hard for me to present an idea for the first time. When I went into the studio to record the vocals, I kicked everyone out of the room except our producer and the sound engineer. Michael was determined to record his voice in just one take because, according to him, it would lose its essence if it was repeated several times. But the sound engineer was hungover, and that wasn't making things any easier for Michael.
I remember feeling really frustrated with the engineer because I felt like he wasn't paying attention. I'm not a bad person, but I become mean in moments like that. Because you have such a vulnerable idea and you're presenting it for the first time. I wanted to record it in just one take, and my delivery couldn't sound fake or pop. It had to come from the heart. Achieving that in a live show is easy, but doing it in the artificial environment of a recording studio with an engineer who's sleepy because he ate too much barbecue for dinner or whatever, I was like that. I clearly remember being really upset.
Michael said he got so stressed that he started to feel really hot, like his body was on fire. The solution he found for that was to take off his clothes and record the official version of the song, practically naked. Despite all the difficulties, the recording finally happened, and Michael Stipe gave the song the title "Losing My Religion," an expression that means losing faith or hope in something. Growing up in the southern United States, Michael spent his life believing that this was a common expression throughout the whole country and only later discovered that it was actually a regional slang. After the song was released, people started to question whether the song was a criticism of religions. And even though R.E.M. has denied this several times, the music video for Losing My Religion itself didn't help the band support that argument. With several references to angels, saints, Hindu deities, and various Christian allegories, the music video just added more fuel to the fire. After more than 30 years since this video, a lot of people still don't understand the meaning of these images and how they relate to the song's lyrics. I was one of those people. For me, the video was a sequence of images that hardly made any sense. Well, at least until I started researching for this script, and then I ended up discovering something impressive. The video presents 4 distinct universes that, after a disturbance, end up connecting. The real world, the world of the gods, the world of art, and the red world. Each of these universes represents a conflicting emotion and guides the narrative of the song throughout the nearly 5 minutes of the video. The first to appear is the real world, which consists of this strange house where the 4 members of the band are. The dominant emotion in this universe is fear, which includes all the feelings associated with that emotion, such as insecurity and uncertainty. You can notice this in the body language, which is always closed off and withdrawn. Here, right at the beginning of the clip, we see Michael sitting while the other band members appear running and looking up, as if they are predicting that something is going to fall. This is a reference to the movie The Sacrifice by Andrei Tarkovsky, where the protagonist is a journalist who stops believing in God, but needs to regain his faith after losing hope in humanity. Soon after, an angel appears carrying a wing, announcing the breaking of the barrier between the 4 universes, establishing chaos and starting the music. Just like in November Rain, which we've already deciphered here, the rain on the window represents tears and suffering, while the milk jug breaking on the floor may be a reference to the expression, crying over spilled milk. In other words, something happened that the protagonist didn't want, and he simply can't accept that there's no turning back. We notice this denial throughout the music video as the floor keeps alternating between being dry and soaked with milk, which also leaves us wondering if everything happening in the music video is real, a dream, a memory, or a nightmare. The house's aesthetic is a reference to the movie Stalker, also by Tarkovsky. Stalker means pursuer, and that already gives us a hint about one of the 4 worlds in the music video. The only moment when Michael isn't so repressed is when he's dancing. Even so, you can tell it's a very withdrawn and awkward dance, as if he isn't really comfortable. Actually, this dance wasn't in the script for the music video and only made it in by chance. The director's idea, Tarsem Singh, was for Michael to just sit, sing, and strike poses in the style of Indian movies. Michael felt that it wasn't working, and according to him, it was a pretty dumb idea. Tarsem was a beginner in the directing field and was still finishing film school when he realized that his idea wasn't working. He felt so distressed that he ran to the bathroom, where he spent more than 30 minutes vomiting. Meanwhile, the band needed to think of a solution to continue the music video.
They said, "This isn't working." And I said, "I know." And they said, "What do we do?" And I said, "Let me dance. Let me try to dance."
Michael Stipe remembered the music video for the song Emperor's New Clothes by the Chinese singer O'Connor, and the song Once in a Lifetime by the band Talking Heads. And basically, he combined the two to create a new dance. A minute into the music video, we are finally introduced to the second universe, the world of the gods, representing the emotion of desire, more specifically, the desire for something unattainable. This universe is made up of angels, gods, Hindus, and even Catholic saints, as is the case in this scene. This is a reference to the painting The Martyrdom of Saint Sebastian by the Baroque painter Guido Reni. Saint Sebastian. He was a member of the Roman army whom Emperor Diocletian trusted so much that he appointed him to the imperial guard. However, Sebastian followed Christianity, a religion that was forbidden at the time, and he secretly strengthened the faith of Christians who were captured and sentenced to death. When Diocletian discovered this betrayal, he tied Sebastian to a tree and shot him with several arrows. The third universe presented in the video is the Red World. It is made up of red flags, soldiers in Soviet uniforms, hammers, and other objects, making a clear reference to Cold War communism. This was a hot topic at that time, since the Soviet Union would collapse in 1991. Despite that, here these images do not have a political meaning. In the music video, the Red World is just a way to present the third conflicting emotion in the song, obsession. This obsession is represented through the spotlights that the soldiers shine on the world of the gods, with a purpose that you will soon understand. While some soldiers operate the spotlights, others work tirelessly on building something. At this moment, we can see the drawing of the object they are building, and at the top of the page, we see the name Otto. This is a reference to Otto Lilienthal, a 19th century German inventor who is still considered the father of gliding flight. Passionate about the idea of flying, Otto built several glider prototypes and made more than 2,000 gliding flights in his lifetime. But it was precisely this obsession that killed him, after he lost lift during a flight and fell from a height of 17 meters. The spotlight of obsession seems to bother the deities who turn their faces away when illuminated at first. The lights seem to do nothing more than just annoy, but that changes. In this scene, while two angels rest under a tree, the spotlight causes one of the angels to lose balance and fall from the world of the gods directly into the fourth and final world, the world of art. This universe is made up of reenactments of various works of art, and the dominant emotion here is disillusionment. These works usually deal with themes of disbelief and loss of faith, which makes a strong reference to the song's title, according to the band. The narrative of this world is also heavily based on a book called A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings by the Colombian writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez, in which an angel with the appearance of an old man falls from the sky during a storm and lands in the yard of a house in a Colombian village. When the owners of the house find him, they take the old angel to the chicken coop, where they keep him as a religious attraction, charging fees from tourists and people seeking miracles while mistreating and exploiting the old angel. Besides this story, the art world is full of references to works by the Baroque painter Michelangelo Caravaggio, like this scene, which refers to the painting St. Francis of Assisi in Ecstasy. This painting represents the moment when a seraphim angel touches St. Francis. The stigmata, which are marks that appear in the same places on the body where Christ suffered during the crucifixion, represent a sign of connection with God. But if you notice in the music video, the position between the man and the angel is reversed, with the angel in the position of receiving the stigmata. When we analyze the lyrics, you'll understand the reason for this. One of the marks of the stigmata can be seen at this moment in the video, which is also a reference to the painting Ecce Homo by Caravaggio. It depicts the moment when the Roman governor Pilate presented Jesus of Nazareth, already scourged with his hands tied and wearing a crown of thorns before a hostile crowd. Pilate did this as a way to let the people themselves decide about the crucifixion of Christ, and therefore to absolve himself of the responsibility for this decision that had previously been his alone. In other words, public humiliation and injustice disguised as good intentions, just like in the story of the angel who fell from heaven. But those aren't the only religious references in the video. Here is a reference to the painting The Flagellation of Christ, which shows Jesus being tied to a column moments before being whipped. Right after, we see a reference to the painting The Deposition of Christ, which shows the preparation for the burial of Jesus Christ. And in this scene, we see an allusion to the painting The Incredulity of St. Thomas, which represents the moment when the Apostle Thomas doubted the resurrection of Jesus. And he said that he would only believe it if he saw him alive and could touch Christ's mortal wounds with his fingers. But all these references hinting at disbelief, disillusionment, and loss of faith, according to the lead singer Michael Stipe, have nothing to do with religion, but are actually based on his own life experience. Since Michael has always been shy, reserved, and introverted, this personality led to certain situations where he couldn't even believe in himself anymore. As a shy person myself, I know very well what it's like to really like someone, but not know how to tell them. You're not sure if what's developing is a friendship or something more than that. And you want to say something? But, quoting the lyrics of my song, you never know if you said too much or if you said enough. However, defining Losing My Religion as a song about a simple platonic love would be making the mistake of ignoring all the depth and complexity of this work of art. If you look at the lyrics, you'll notice that it doesn't talk about love in a positive way, but rather reveals the darker side of this feeling, obsession. Michael approached this theme by drawing inspiration from one of the greatest classics of the 80s.
I remember Every Breath You Take by the Police, and I thought that was the most beautiful and the creepiest song of all.
Every game you play, every night you stay, I'll be watching you.
It's a brilliant song about unrequited love. And you don't even know if the object of affection is aware of that person or if he's a stalker or what the story is. I wanted to do the same thing.
Throughout the song, he bares his soul, searching for hidden meanings and hopeful signs, but slowly going insane in the process until he completely loses his mind. That's why at the beginning of the song, when he still has some sanity left, he says,
Oh, life is bigger.
"Life is bigger. It's bigger than you, and you are not me." It seems so grand and distant from him that he tries to console himself by saying that it's not the most important thing in the world. But deep down, he knows he doesn't believe that, so he starts to enter into a dangerous conflict with himself.
Links that I will go to.
The distances I would travel, the distance. In his eyes, he knows he's capable of doing anything to be noticed by her eyes, which seems so distant and indifferent to him. But, like a typical shy person, he soon feels guilty for having said those words.
Oh no, I've said too much.
No, I said too much. I caused all of this. If you, like me, are also a shy person, you'll relate even more to that feeling of always thinking you said the wrong thing, or that someone won't want to hear what you're saying. Getting close to someone you love to confess your feelings for them can seem torturous and scary, because it brings up a conflict between the desire to be noticed and the fear of being rejected and judged. That's what he means in that line.
That's me in the corner.
That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. This part of the lyrics was originally supposed to be a little different. In an interview with the legendary producer Rick Rubin in 2022, Michael Stipe revealed that he changed a word in this verse. At the last moment, I changed the lyrics and I remember. Instead of "that's me in the spotlight," it used to be "that's me in the kitchen," Stipe stated. And then he explained, "What I wanted to convey was the shy person who stays isolated in the corner during a party and doesn't approach the person they're in love with. So he stays there watching everyone dance, seeing the love of his life having fun with everyone. Or he stays in the kitchen, hiding behind the refrigerator." Stipe preferred to swap the word kitchen for spotlight, simply because it sounded better in the song. But he ended up regretting that change later, and that regret even ended up having an influence on his next compositions like the classic hit Everybody Hurts.
Everybody hurt.
The guitarist Peter Buck revealed in an interview for Select magazine in '92. Originally, there was a line after the first chorus of Everybody Hurts, where Michael sang, "Everybody hurts, even the singer of this song." But Michael thought twice and said, "You know what? It's better if we're more universal this time." He regrets having used that "that's me" about the spotlight in Losing My Religion, because a lot of people ended up interpreting it as if the lyrics were about his life on stage, which is not what the song is actually about. Little by little, the protagonist's internal conflicts become unbearable, and what was once just shyness and insecurity starts turning into obsession.
Every whisper.
With every sigh, with every waking hour, I try to keep my eyes on you. The obsession is so intense that he constantly watches her like a stalker and ends up creating too many expectations about the one he loves.
Thought that I heard you laughing.
I thought I saw you laughing. I thought I saw you singing. I thought I saw you crying. Just like typical obsessive behavior. He observes any micro change in her facial expression with excessive attention, focused on finding signs of interest from her, and to the point of ending up having completely mistaken interpretations, as he makes clear right after.
That was just a dream.
But that was just a dream. He thought he was living a happy relationship where she laughed, sang, and cried with him. But here, he realizes that all of this was just a dream, a relationship that was only ever in his head. Knowing this, we start to understand many of the analogies in the music video. For example, the deities were nothing more than idealizations of a perfect love, of an unattainable love. The obsession and the search for this love becomes even clearer in this scene, where we finally see what object was being built. It was a kind of metallic exoskeleton, probably made to imprison the deities that were being observed with the spotlights, and the old angel was the representation of the protagonist's love, a love that was idealized with such high expectations that it ended up falling into disillusionment, being cruelly hurt, exploited, and humiliated until it finally died. Although it is based on his personality to write the lyrics, it does not deal with the specific experience of the singer. As Michael Stipe himself said in the book, Reveal is a classic song about obsession. I've always thought that the best songs are those that anyone can listen to and identify with. But as I said, not everyone interpreted the song that way. And many people saw Losing My Religion as blasphemy against their religion. In May 1991, the music video for Losing My Religion was banned in Ireland due to the use of images considered offensive, such as the depiction of angels and Catholic saints with effeminate characteristics.
In some places, people questioned, religious organizations questioned the Catholic Church and the song. It was meant to say something very different. In Ireland, for example, in 1991.
Meanwhile, in other places, Losing My Religion became a protest anthem for people who questioned the excessive power that religion had over the government and the people. Another theory was that the lyrics talked about Michael Stipe's sexuality, who is bisexual, but at the time he had not yet come out. And because of Michael's appearance, who has always been very thin. Rumors also began to surface that the song was about the singer having contracted and fighting against the human immunodeficiency virus. In an interview with Independent magazine in 1998, Stipe talked about these rumors. The rumors made me sad for a few minutes, but what can you do? I can't allow the media to control my life. All these theories that came up only brought new learning for the band.
I didn't understand what people were taking from the song. Then I realized that after you make a hit song, the song isn't really yours anymore.
The weirdest thing is that none of the band members believed the song had any potential to be a hit. To make things worse, their label, Warner Bros. Discogs, believed in it even less. They didn't want to release the song as a single. For those who don't know, a single is like a promotional song. If an artist is going to release an album, a little before that, they release singles, which are usually standout songs released individually as a way to build up the audience's anticipation for the full album. To Warner's despair, the band decided to release Losing My Religion as the first single from the album Out of Time. Because, according to Michael Stipe, R.E.M. had a tradition of choosing the least likely track to be a hit as the first single from each album. Their idea was that Losing My Religion would serve as a kind of warm-up for the album's second single, a song they considered much more pop and commercially appealing. Shiny Happy People, which, although it also had some success, was a song that didn't reflect the band's identity. But Losing My Religion, a song without a well-defined chorus and whose main instrument was a mandolin, is, among all the songs they've ever made, the one that most represents rapid eye movement style. And that's according to Michael Stipe himself. But when they told Warner Brothers about the idea of Losing My Religion being the first single, the label reacted with disgust.
You can't release a single that has a mandolin. I replied, we're not doing this because we don't want a hit. We hope the album doesn't sell. Did they want to destroy their own career on purpose? Well, I think we wanted to put an end to a phase of our career and then start a new phase.
The band stood their ground and finally managed to convince the record label of the idea. R.E.M. knew that the success of the songs was important, but that wasn't their focus. As you saw, since the songwriting process for this song, the only thing that mattered to the band wasn't money, but rather doing something they could be proud of and identify with, for their own good luck and for ours. Losing My Religion not only made them proud, but also earned them awards at the MTV, the Grammys, and the song was even inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017. But all this success didn't necessarily sit well with some of the band's older fans, who wanted to keep them known only among cult music lovers. They accused R.E.M. of being a sellout band, and some even talked about a boycott. Guitarist Peter Buck's response to those people sums up the band's stance well. The people who change their minds because of Losing My Religion can go screw themselves. Losing My Religion took R.E.M. from being a renowned band in the cult bubble to a band respected and loved all over the world, without losing the essence and identity they've always had. All of this was only possible thanks to the band's courage to expose their most intimate feelings, imperfections, and flaws in the form of music. Just like Axl Rose, the lead singer of Guns N' Roses, did by exposing his traumas to create the darkest trilogy in rock and roll. If you want to know more about this story, just click on this video. Thank you very much for your company, and I'll see you in the next video.